Hey guys, Mark here, and this is just going to be a little video I'm making about some of the basics of the Exceed RC 2.4 gigahertz 6-channel transmitter. Now I just picked this up, and one of the reasons I picked this up is this transmitter is completely computer programmable. When you buy it, comes with this little software disk here. Go ahead and install the software, and you hook your transmitter up to your computer using this little cable right here. And you can go through and you can change all kinds of settings on the transmitter, like throttle curves, pitch curves, your sub trims for your servos, all kinds of stuff like that. And it comes with the receiver here. You see the receiver has your antenna, and then it also comes with a satellite receiver with an additional antenna. So having the two antennas like this pretty much guarantees that you're never going to have an instant where your transmitter loses signal with your receiver here. And you know that is a must for if you have a bigger helicopter. You have to have two receivers with the two antennas there. So, and then you get this little bind plug, and the bind plug makes sure that this receiver will not work with any other transmitter except the one you bind it to. So that way you never have to worry about somebody else's radio system interfering with yours. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up on my EXI 450 SE, and I'm just going to show you some of the basics of how to go ahead and actually set this up on a helicopter, so that way when you go ahead and do it on yours, you'll have some just basic knowledge. Okay, so the first step is to bind the receiver to the transmitter, and that's where this little bind plug comes in. So first thing, you need to hook your receiver to your ESC here. Make sure your ESC isn't connected to the motor, and you can see here, okay, see how I'm holding the receiver? See how the wires, see where the white wire is? It's facing this way. I'm going to plug this into channel 3. Okay, now take your bind plug here. You want to plug this into the very top up here, the battery spot. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to make the transmitter's off. Go ahead, plug in the ESC, and at this point, you're going to see these flash. Okay, see the lights flashing there? Now what you need to do is on your transmitter, there's a little button down here, right here. You're going to hold that button and you're going to turn your transmitter on. And what that's going to do is going to bind your transmitter to your receiver. Now, normally this can take like about 2 seconds, 3 seconds, but it can take, up to like 10, 15 seconds. So what you do is you hold the button down, turn your transmitter on, and wait for them to stop blinking. See, it stopped blinking already. So now you can go ahead, let go of the button and remove your bind plug. Now your receiver is bound to your transmitter. So now you can do is go ahead, unplug it, and hook it up in your helicopter, hook up your servos, and make sure everything is functioning properly. And then we'll go ahead, install the program, and actually program the transmitter. Okay, so the little disc that it comes with, just go ahead and pop this into your CD drive. Then what you're going to need to do is go to My Computer, go to your CD drive, click on the CD. Now the first thing you want to do, here's the instructions if you haven't read them. First thing you do, the driver, install the driver first, and it'll go through, install it. Alright, now you want to go ahead and install the T6 config. Click next, next, click T6, next, next, and finish. Okay, so now you can close that down, and on your desktop, see a little icon here for T6 config. What you want to do is real quickly restart your computer, then go ahead, plug the cable into the computer, and your computer will make a little noise telling you, you'll get a little pop-up that says it found some new hardware, and after it says it's installed and ready to use, you go ahead and plug the cable into the back of the transmitter, and you can go ahead and turn it on now. Now on your screen here, go back to the T6 config, double click on it, and you can see that this little screen pops up. Okay, with the screen that pops up, first thing you need to do is make sure on the program it knows what port on your computer the transmitter is plugged into. And you'll know that when you move your stick, this green bars there and black bars will move. So if it's not moving, go ahead and go to your setting and select another COM port. Now the COM ports are basically the USB ports. So the number of USB things that you have plugged into your computer will show up as the number of COM ports. So for my computer, I only have 2 USB devices plugged in, so I only have one other option to choose. So I click OK, and now you can see that they all move. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to click Get User. What this does, this imports the settings from the transmitter to the program. Now, go to Save, and the easiest thing I find to do is just go to Desktop up here, right here, just right click on it and you'll bring up a little menu and you select down here New Folder, and I just type in T6 and then Open. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say Default and then click Open. Now what that did was on my desktop here, you see this little file that I created in here, these are the default settings that I just saved for my transmitter. So if I ever for some reason mess something up, I could always import my settings directly from here to my transmitter. Alright, so anyways, now this is where we get to play with all the different settings here. So like right down here, your reverse, if for some reason one of your servos is moving in the opposite direction, you would just click the reversing, you know, either check it or uncheck it, and then click OK. You got to do one servo at a time, but after you select that servo, click OK, it saves that servo, and then you can go on to the next servo, blah, blah, blah. Your sub trims, I'll show you about that in a second. Your throttle curves are in here. You can adjust your throttle curves. This is normal mode, and throttle up, and you can see I've already adjusted it, and you can go from 100, like for your throttle curve, for myself I have 100% throttle at low, and then at like 25% throttle I have 90%. At mid stick I have 80% throttle. At 75% stick there I have 90% throttle, 100% at full stick. And this is so for stunt mode. But again, you can adjust your stunt mode and your normal throttle curves. And same thing for your pitch curves. You got a couple other things. You could actually change what mode the transmitter is also, but you want it as mode 2. You can also change the endpoints of the servos. Down here, the type, you can select different types. 90-degree helicopter would be for like a fixed pitch 4-channel helicopter, but 120 degrees for the collective pitch helicopters. Then down here, these little things right here, these are so you can program. Okay, so switch A, which is actually on this side of the transmitter. If you click that, you can select either throttle cut, stunt mode, or dual rate. So you can select 3 different things for that switch to do. Now I have mine set on throttle cut, so that way when I pull that switch, it'll cut the throttle. And so you can do the same thing. You have a couple options for switch B right here. I have this switch set for throttle up, and then you have a couple options for the dials here too, and those are right here. So again, I'm going to show you real quickly how to mess with the sub trims, and then go from there. Okay, so one of the most important parts about setting up your helicopter is making sure your servo arms are level. To do this, you use sub trims. So now to set your sub trims using the Exceed transmitter, okay, so I've got the transmitters on, I've got the program running, I've already set up my throttle curves and my pitch curves for idle up, for stunt mode. So now what I need to do is, I got the throttle at mid stick, and this is where you need to make sure that your servo arms are level. So what you're going to do is, if they're not level on your program, go ahead and open up the subtrim menu, okay, and depending on what channel you need to adjust the subtrim for, you can go from negative 120 all the way up to positive 120. So if you've got to put in like negative 70, like so for mine, channel 1, the aileron servo, is negative 70 subtrim makes the servo arm completely level. Okay, and then for channel 2 it's negative 60, and channel 6 it's negative 90. But change one of them at a time, and to change it you would just, like if you wanted to change it to 70, you just change 70 and hit OK. And when you do that, you'll see the servo arm move. Okay, if you watch, I'm going to change that back to negative 70 and just put a negative in front of it. Click OK, and you can see that the servo arm moves right there. So it's instantaneous, changes when you're doing this on the computer here. And when you make all your changes and you like it, click Save, and you'll see here, go to your little file, just click Open, which is actually Save, and then it saves that setting on your transmitter as well as on that little file on your computer. Okay. Now, one other thing that when I first hooked up my transmitter, one of the things I was having a hard time is when I moved this stick, I couldn't get any movement up here, and it took me a while to figure this out. First thing I had to do was I had to go to Swash right here, and I put them all at 50%, and then click OK. But that, for some reason, when I first started setting up my transmitter, they were at 0. So they weren't moving, the servos weren't moving because the settings here in the transmitter told them not to move. So that was just something that I wanted to mention here. And then one final thing, when you're setting your pitch for your maximum pitch, say when you initially set up your helicopter, and you've got that swash menu there and you put them all on 50, say originally when you set that all up, say you have 7 degrees pitch and you want 10 degrees pitch, what you got to do is go back into that swash menu there and just increase the numbers for all 3 channels. So like mine, I originally had them on 50, but to get the pitch that I wanted, I put them on 70. And again, you have to change that. They have to be the same for all of the channel. All 3 have to be the same. But that's how you increase or decrease the amount of travel that the swash plate has. And you can go from negative 100 all the way up to positive 100. But when you're doing positive numbers, you don't actually have to put the positive in there. But then just click OK after that. And always remember, when you're done making all these changes on there, click Save. Click on the little file there. Click Open, which again, that means save. And that saves it in your transmitter and whatnot, as well as your computer. So now you can just go ahead and unplug the helicopter, close out the program, and shut your transmitter off. But those are just some basic